Hey guys, my name is Victoria. Today we're going to be talking about working at TJ Maxx. Is it for you? I don't know. You can make your decision, I guess, after watching a bunch of these different videos since there's like a lot of them online. So I first started working for TJ Maxx in 2016. I have worked at 3 separate stores and I've worked there for a combined, I took a year off, so it's not like I've been working there since 2016. I took a year off and was rehired. So I've been there for close to 4 years now. So whenever I went in for the interview, there were 3 of us, and I was going to be hired as a seasonal employee. So I put in my application around November, and they were hiring me I think it was I had the interview the second week in November. And then they hired me. So it was a group interview, which meant there were 3 people, coming in for the interview. And there was our operations manager, his name was Doug, and he was asking us questions. I had never been interviewed in this way, but I don't freak out and stuff like that. I just think, okay, I've got to outshine these 2 girls, because it happened to be 2 other girls, and give the best responses that I can. At that time, I'd already been a resident assistant at my junior college, and I had worked at Chick-fil-A. So a lot of the managers would come to Chick-fil-A at lunch, so they recognized me. So they associated me with Chick-fil-A goodness and food. So they already had a face with the name. So when I went in there, they asked me some basic questions like, okay, what's a time when you didn't meet a deadline? What were some responsibilities that you had in your last job? And I was like, those were really easy. I was a resident assistant. Not only did I manage and respond to fire alarms going off, but I also was a gatekeeper and made sure no one came in the doors. I worked from like 10 at night, sometimes till 4 in the morning. We had 4 and 5 hour shifts, and sometimes longer. It depends. Sometimes people wouldn't come up to relieve you, so you got a few extra hours. But there were lots of times when I was a resident assistant that I was also guarding the door for kids, like people under 18, high school or middle schoolers, and I guarded the door and made sure nobody came in that wasn't on the list. And it was a big thing that I took seriously, because those are somebody's kids. And so even though I was only 19 at the time or 20, I had a lot of experiences that I could draw from where I had to be in charge. I had people I could call, but I was the only one in the building that was responsible, if that makes sense. So those were my previous jobs leading up to TJ Maxx. So what happened was they let us all go after that interview was done. And they didn't really tell us the day of if we had the job or not. I think the reason they didn't tell us, the 3 of us, if we had it or not, was because one person out of the 3 people was going to get it and the other 2 weren't. And I guess they didn't want to have to deal with those people having those hard feelings, because finding out you didn't get a job after an interview is difficult, but you've got to push through it. The best thing you can do if you don't get the job is ask them why they didn't pick you. Phrase it in a way that's not so, confrontational, but be like, how can I be a better candidate for your, to be a sales associate? And whenever you do that, you're opening up, a conversation for you as a potential, retail worker to improve. Maybe you don't have experience working with, customers. That's a huge issue, a huge thing to do in retail, and it'd be a huge issue and kind of a liability for them to hire you if you don't know how to interact with customers, because you're going to have customers come up to you and, be really rude for no reason other than they want to and they can, and you're going to have to be like, oh my God, sorry that you're not having a great experience with us today. Is there anything I can do to help improve your experience, And that's just something I made up. You just have to be able to do those on the fly, fake, super fake, but authentic enough responses to where you keep the customer happy. You have to be able to talk them down, because sometimes they will amp themselves up and be like, what do you mean I can't have a refund? Well, Ross's does a refund like this. I bought this as Ross. Why can't I return this here? you have to be able to know those little responses. And sometimes when you're first working, you can just clam up and freeze. You just, if you don't have customer service experience, it's going to be hard for you to know those responses. And then sometimes it doesn't matter how much customer experience you have, you're going to have somebody that's not going to be happy no matter what. So keep that in mind. So whenever I was hired, they started me in the back room. So I was receiving trucks. At the time, they were receiving trucks early in the morning. So I'd get there at 5:30. The trucks would come at 6. We would have to prepare the room, there are these things called Z-racks, because there are these garments, they're garments on hangers, or GOHs, and those go on a rack. And then the person doing layups, or the person hanging the clothes, they take off all the plastic first, they censor and code if anything's, it keeps changing. Sometimes it's $19.99. Recently, since Christmas, it's been $29.99, and then certain departments, it doesn't matter what the price is, it gets a certain tag. So all of that stuff has to be coded and processed. If it's your first day and you're in the back room, guess what? Ask questions. It's not going to be a big deal if you don't know. It is going to be a big deal if you just continue putting stuff in the wrong spot and you don't ask questions, because that just shows like you're not teachable and you're not, willing to learn. Even if you are, so ask questions, even if it makes you feel kind of uncomfortable. So what you're going to do is you're going to learn. Oh my God, I wish I had something with a TJ Maxx sticker. 1 second. Ta-da, I'm back. Okay, so everything has a sticker. You can't see because everything's backwards. This first number is the department number. Why is that important? Well, even though TJ Maxx seems like a bunch of departments like all in one jumbled up spot, everything has a place. Like, it doesn't look like it when you're a customer, and sometimes the store gets really messy, and it sure as heck doesn't look like it like around Christmas, because people will take towels all the way to the shoe department and it's just a jumbled mess, and recovery is an issue, but we'll get to that. So you need to know your department numbers, and there should be a manager somewhere that can print you off the sheet so you can learn those. Everything that comes off the truck is not like sorted. So you get a box and you can have spatulas, you can have baby clothes, you can have shoes. No, you're not going to have shoes. You can have baby shoes. Adult shoes come in their own box and they go in their own little pile in their own little world, and they have to be processed separately from everything else. So everything's going to come down the line. They have rollers and they take the boxes off, and you're going to have a box cutter. Be careful with a box cutter. I suggest you go slow at first until you get to where you can just chop open boxes and break them down. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut the sides first, and then you're going to cut across. And whenever you're cutting across, you don't want to press really hard, because you can cut into some stuff. Like if you have shirts in there, you can cut a whole line down a shirt, a North Face jacket. You don't want to do that because it damages and shrink, and you just don't want to, you don't want to do that. So you cut open the boxes, you take all the stuff out, and you start to sort it. So like at my store, we have these big carts. So we have a cart for $60, and then we have a cart for $80. And $80 is like candles, glassware, all that sort of stuff. Those things go on the $60-$80 side of the store, which is like houseware. It's like all the candles, all the cleaning stuff. Like it's like the back of the store for us. So whenever you have everything on that cart that goes in the back of the store, you don't have to travel all over the store. It's like beauty has its own cart. So that way, whenever you are done with the beauty cart, you just roll it over to the beauty section, and then you put everything where it needs to go. So the biggest issue that I say with new hires is that they will put beauty, they will put pets, they will put everything on the $60-$80 cart, because they don't realize that they're going to have to run that. If it's not them, it's going to be somebody else. They're going to have to run that, and when they do, they're going to be walking all over the store, and that takes away time from a task. Like it creates like, I'm not saying that right. It's going to take more time to run that cart, and it's going to be super frustrating, because instead of walking 4 feet to the notebook section, you're going to be walking all the way to the other side of the store to pets or men's and kids or whatever. So 60-80 has its own cart. That's where it goes. So we have these big gray totes, and then we have these blue rollers, and certain things go on the blue rollers. We have travel, we have fragrances, and if they're a certain price point, they go in a tote. If they are not a certain price point, they're going to go on the beauty tank because they're going to be ready to go out. It depends on what your store does. Our store is still doing $29.99, but before Christmas we were doing $19.99. So that means it gets put in a container to where it's harder for someone to steal, basically. So beauty, travel, pets, I think it's athletic and fitness. So there are all these little hanging things like abdominal wraps, like all that random like weights and stuff, that like ankle weights and stuff. We have a big tower, we put those on, and those all go in totes because it's easier to just roll the totes out to and they stack. So they're these big plastic boxes that stack, you know, and they have grooves, and you can only get them to stack and fit one way. So you're going to learn how to sort all that stuff. All the clothing's going to go in boxes, and then we just roll those further down, and the roller actually goes by the people that are laying up clothes. So they can just take the clothes out, and then they do something called laying up. So the polo shirts have these needles in them, so you're going to have to pull them out. Every other garment seems to be like hassle-free, but polo shirts, for whatever reason, they have these needles in them that keep them folded while they're traveling. So whenever you're hanging those, you're going to take all those needles out. Whenever you're punching ink tabs in, you're going to have to make sure you go in or under a seam. You do not want to just, like, if I have a shirt, let's say this one, I'm not going to put an ink tab here. I'm going to put it somewhere under the collar, kind of where the tag already is. So that way, when the cashiers take it out at the front, the thing isn't damaged. You do not want to damage a garment. You don't want to break anything to where a customer can't buy it in the back room before it ever has a chance to hit the sales floor. Basically. We're trying to make them money so they can pay us like 10 cents off of everything they make. Whatever. Capitalism, baby. But you're going to do that and sort everything. So once everything's sorted and you have something that is full, that's ready to hit the floor, all you're going to do is roll it out there. Everything is going to be in vertical stripes. So if I had 3 of the same item, let's use this as just a random example of something I have on my desk. I'm not going to do it like this. This is horizontal. Oh, I dropped it. So you're going to make stripes, and that's just how TJ Maxx does it. That's how they do it. You never know what we're going to get. We could have 500 pairs of lime green socks. You go on the sock wall, you're going to make a stripe, a section. You're going to have to move everything around. So whenever you're running freight, you're going to have to move everything around to accommodate the new stuff. And you basically have to organize it. So if you don't do that, it's just going to be a sloppy mess. It's like somebody threw up a bunch of new stuff in this area, and it's really hard for people to shop. It's really frustrating. Like we had a bunch of lap desks one time, and some new hire, put them all in the pots and pans section. So we had to go through and get all of them out and put them back where they actually went. So you want to make sure that whenever you are running freight, you're putting it where it goes. You don't want to put it everywhere. You want to put it where it goes. Okay, so you've ran your freight, and that's cool. So another thing you're going to want to do is check in with your managers whenever you're done with a task. It just really depends on your management and their temperament. I also worked in Hattiesburg. So when I worked in Hattiesburg, management stayed on us. Like, not in a bad way, though. Well, it just depended, like, on their mood. But, like, you'd pretty much, like, finish a task, and before you even finished it, like, they were checking up with you, and they were ready to assign you the next task before you really even finished the task you were on. So it's going to be really dependent on what kind of manager you have and their style of management, if they even have a style of management. Some people, I feel like, are just winging it, and that's cool on them. Whatever. And then there are other managers that really don't care what you do. Like, you can go to work and you just literally start doing stuff, and they don't even know what you're doing, and I feel like they don't even care. So that's just differences in management style. So another thing that is gonna really just like depend on hours and your availability. If you go into a job and you have open availability and then you change it to where you're only able to work 2 days a week, management's not going to like that for obvious reasons. They hired you for you have an open availability. So if you flip-flop on them, like, they're just going to get mad at you. So the worst thing about working at TJ Maxx personally is the hours, or are the hours. So at Christmas time, you might be working 40, 45 hours a week. Well, after January 3rd, when we do inventory, that's when they start cutting hours. They start cutting people. They let all the seasonal people go. And then they start giving you like, maybe you work 8 hours that week. If you're part-time, like, I guess you should just be grateful you weren't cut, whatever. But you can't like, I don't know how to say it. They don't have hours to give. And even if you wait, like, I have the same availability I had before Christmas, and this week I was only scheduled for 12 hours. Next week I'm only scheduled for 4. It is what it is. So if you really want hours, the best thing you can do is tell management that you want more hours. Give them your phone number, or create a Google Voice, number. So that way, not everybody has your number, because it's kind of weird. Because some people will call you and try to give you shifts, and then some people will try to like go on a date with you because people don't understand what professionalism is. It means like you're not supposed to call this person unless you want to give them your hours or your shift or something work related. It doesn't mean you want to go out to Dunkin' Donuts and get coffee. Rant over. So you also have this board. Another thing is, they don't post the schedule in an email or anything. There's not a web portal where you can see the schedule, which is really frustrating. So you have to go in and it's posted. And it's like, we're playing pretend, okay? It's like this, and everything's laminated, and it's like I think they staple binders on the wall. So you're gonna go in and you're gonna see when you work and take pictures and add it to your little Google Calendar or whatever you use to keep up with your hours. I highly suggest you do that. Go create a calendar in your phone and write down the hours that you work. This is important for a lot of reasons. It tells you when you're supposed to go to work, and whenever you go to approve your time card, it's going to be easier to look at that than it is to look at a picture of the schedule. So that way, if you came in, let's say the manager is late. Let's say the manager was supposed to get there at 7 or really 6:50 to unlock the doors and go through everybody's health screens, and they got there at 7:10. Well, they've got to clock you in. If they didn't remember to clock you in, you're not going to get paid for that day, even if you clocked out. So it's really important to double check that and to look at your time card. So there's going to be a clock that you're going to use. You're going to have an AIN number, which is an associate identification number. And it's going to be this really, really long number. I can't remember how many digits it is. It's a 9-digit code. And you're just going to have to remember it. It's really easy to remember. I would suggest writing it down a few times, or like singing it, or looking at it every night before you go to bed so you can just have it memorized. Mine's been the same since since I was hired in 2016. So it's I've not had to rememorize it. I've never understood why they don't just switch to a card like Walmart, like where you just swipe in or something. Anyways. So you're going to type in your little number, and you're going to go to begin shift, and then, you type in your little number, and then it's like something, ask you a bunch of words. I never ever actually look at it. It's like some legal jargon of, I promise I will take my breaks at the right time or whatever. You're just going to press approve. You've punched in. Check in with your manager, see what they want to do. It's time for you to take your 15. So there's a lineup, and it's going to be beside the time clock. It's a paper thing. It should be by the time clock. Sometimes it's behind the registers at the front. It just depends on what your management does. It could be in their office. You just never know. So you're going to look and see when they want you to take your 15. A good rule of thumb is 2 hours into your 4 or 5 hour shift. And if you work 8 hours, you're going to get 2 15s. So if you're working 8 hours or 9 hours or whatever you're working that day, you're going to go 2 hours into your shift, take your 15. And then you're going to have a 45-minute, which is your lunch. And then after your 45, you're going to take another 15. If you are under 18, you're going to have to take a 15 by punching into the clock. Just like whenever you click begin shift, you're going to punch into the clock. And so I would suggest a timer on your phone. So that way, the most annoying thing is like whenever you're 13 minutes and you think it's been 15 minutes and you try to clock in, and then you have no idea whenever you started your 15. So just set a timer on your phone. And you're going to have to end your 15 if you're under 18 as well. So there's that. So whenever you're done with your shift, you're going to go in, you're going to press end shift, and you're going to, type in your little number, and then you leave. No big deal. Okay, at the end of the week, I think it's like after you've completed like your shifts for the week, you can look at your time card, and that's where that calendar that I was talking about comes in. So refer to your calendar and just glance and make sure, everything is like you worked. Like, especially if you come in on a day you aren't scheduled or you cover a shift for somebody, make sure that date's on there, because they're more than likely, management's going to have to punch you in. And it's nothing personal if they forget. I suggest writing it down on a note. So whenever I come in, let's say I'm working for my friend Sally. So I'm going to get a pen and a piece of paper, and just to save management the headache, I'm going to write, I worked today, February 22nd from 2 to 6, okay? And I'm going to date it and write my name on there, first and last name, and hand it to management. That way, like, sometimes they get overwhelmed, and if you tell them something, like, they're not going to remember, and it's just because like they're dealing with so much in the moment all the time. So I would suggest giving them a little note, and then if you went in and you gave that to them at the very beginning of your shift, just check at the very end and be like, hey, I just want to double check and make sure that you punched me in today. And just make sure that they give you your hours, because there's nothing worse than looking at your check and, realizing that they've cut you or they forgot to add you for 16 hours, like you came in for 2 days for 8 hours both days, and they just forgot to punch you in. Like, yeah, it's not cool. So your work week is going to be reflected on your pay 2 weeks later. So it's going to be 2 weeks before you get your first paycheck. And if you leave, you're going to get, like, I don't know how to say it. Like, a week in, you're going to be working, and then the next week you're going to get your paycheck. So we get paid every Friday. Every Thursday, depending on your bank. Like, they have to process it. You get the money Thursday, and then it shows up in your account Friday. And then I think if you have Chime, it shows up on Wednesday or something. Anyways, that's just what my coworkers have told me. And then if you don't have a bank, they send the checks to the store. But for a while during COVID, they would just send them to the people's houses. And that was really unfortunate, because like people would get their checks like on Saturday, and no banks are open on Saturday unless you have the app and you can scan it, but you have to pay extra to have it immediately done. But these people don't have banks anyway, so they would have to wait until Monday to cash their check. So I strongly suggest setting up direct deposit, so you get that money, you get it now, So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Okay, so back room, we've covered like working the floor. Another thing you're going to have to do is like when the store is closing, you have to recover. So customers come in. We love customers, but they come in and kind of mess us up. Like, they'll put stuff, like they will fill their whole cart with a bunch of stuff and just empty it in the furniture section. Why do y'all do that? I don't know. Anyways, so we have to go and recover. So what you're going to do with those items is you're going to pick them up. I would put them in a cart and try to arrange them in the cart the way they're going to go back on the floor. So if someone has a bunch of notebooks, I'll pile the notebooks together. Somebody has a bunch of pacifiers and baby clothes, I want to pile those together because they're all on the same side of the store. And I'm going to go and run those things. Another thing is, at the front, people will also have that like change of heart. They'll be like, oh, I don't actually need these lime green skinny jeans or whatever. Sorry, lime green's on the brain. I just think it's a crazy color. So they're going to like just leave them on the back of the counter, and then you or whoever's recovering that department, like somebody might be in clothing, they're going to get that rack and they're going to run the rack, as often as it's full. So we have men's and kids. So if there's anything men's and kids, and somebody's in that department, they're going to run that stuff. or at least that's the way my store does it. We have one associate per department, and it's their job that night to recover that department because that's the department they're responsible for. Now, if somebody calls out, then a lot of the other people that are in surrounding departments, they might all come by and touch up that department throughout the night, because I feel like our management thought it'd be kind of unfair to dump 2 departments on one associate, because it's just so much to keep up with, and that and being called up to the register, like, you're just never going to be able to finish the task. So the dressing room's been closed since COVID, but the dressing room's something else. So I used to work there pre-COVID. I don't know if we're ever going to be opening our dressing rooms back. That's going to be up to corporate and all them. And because we are allowing returns, I feel like they can keep the dressing rooms closed, because a lot of other stores, other retailers, they have their dressing rooms open, but they don't allow you to return the clothing. So they feel like this is a good compromise. Customers, they have their own feelings. Like, they'll be in the bathroom trying to try on clothes, and we'll be like, we're fixing to call the police on you because it looks like you're stealing. And they'll be like, oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And I'm like, there's like a huge sign on the door. Also, customers never read signs, so get that, accept it. Don't be aggravated when they're like, how would I have ever known? And there's like a huge sign that says, do not do this thing you're doing right now. Whatever. So, let's see what else. Let's see what else I haven't covered. So you recover, you close everything, they lock the doors, everybody gets their stuff, clocks out, leaves, whatever. So that's like a day in the life, I guess. Oh, fitting room. So, sorry. This is turning into kind of a long video, but you're going to call the department head of that rack of clothes. So if you have men's and kids, you'll be like, associate men's and kids to fitting room for a pickup, and they'll come and they'll get the rack and they'll run it and it'll be empty, woohoo. Same with, like there might be somebody in juniors and women's, and there are different racks, sectioned racks, and whenever you put those clothes on that rack, they're sorted by department. So that's why it's important. There's a million reasons why you should know your department numbers, and that's another one of them. So you've recovered, you've done all that other stuff. So there's all kinds of different areas you can work. So I'm considered a sales associate, which is a really vague term for I know where everything is. Well, they give that kind of to everybody. But I used to be a women's associate. Your title doesn't matter. You can be working the front register. You can be working the floor. You can be recovering. You can be, decorating the break room. Like, there's so many things you could be doing. And that's where whenever you sign on with them, like, they have that clause at the very end, which is really funny, that says, will do any duties, like, when applicable. And that's like a catch-all for, if it's not in the description, we're still going to ask you to do it. It's just like that. So that's that. So trucks come, we take the merchandise, we sort it, we take it to the sales floor, we put it out on the sales floor, and the people that are hanging the clothes, they put it on racks, and then those people, the people running stuff, they take those racks and they're gonna run it to the sales floor and put it in the department. It's like 09 is plus size, so that's gonna go where the plus size stuff is. 72 and 40 is infants, so you're gonna put that stuff with, kids, infants, whatever. And 64 is men's athletics. So if you have athletics, you're gonna put it in the athletic section, not with the polo button-down shirts. So there are so many things where, honestly, like, even if you don't know what your department numbers are, you can look at the garment. Save us all some time if you're new, and look at what's already there. Look at the department number. Be like, oh, this is 64. In the garment you're running, oh, this is 64. And you can look at several garments that are already there and determine, like, oh, this is where 64 goes, instead of just putting stuff places, because the person that coordinates that department is going to have to go behind you and take all that stuff out and put it where it's supposed to go. So you're creating work. You're doing work, but you're creating more work, if that makes sense, because somebody's going to have to go behind you and clean up your mess. So there are sales associates that are part-time. There are sometimes people that are called flex associates, where they are full-time, My store doesn't have them. Previous stores that I've worked at did, like Hattiesburg. I was kind of a flex associate at times, like at Christmas, because I was in school, and that's when I could work full time. So I would be working, you know, from 7 in the morning until 4 o'clock, and then I would come back again at 6 and work from 6 to like 10:30 or 11 working in the back room. So I was a back room girl. There aren't very many girls working in the back room for whatever reason. The boxes are, some of them can be heavy, like some of the furniture can be kind of heavy, but I wouldn't say, like, I'm pretty small framed, you know. A lot of the guys put the boxes on the rollers, you know, and cut them open, and then we, you know, sort through them. But a lot of the boxes are kind of awkward to hold, but they're not exactly what I would say impossible or heavy. Maybe 25 pounds. It just really depends on what the truck has, because sometimes they're going to be heavier than that. But I suggest you, you know, lift with your legs, you know, don't lift with your back. If something's too heavy, get help. Get another associate to help you lift it up. Make sure, like, you know, you don't want to go to this job that's part-time that doesn't have health insurance and hurt yourself. Okay, so think about yourself first. They give you a paycheck, but it's in the long run, you don't want to harm yourself in a way that you're going to have years of pain, okay? So keep that in mind. Wear some really great shoes. If I don't wear really good arch support, like, my arches of my feet start really hurting, and it makes it really hard to go through the day. This is not a job where you're going to show up in high heels and, like, have a good time. Like, especially if you're in the front register, because you're kind of just going to be standing, you know, your little feet are going to be like this the whole time because you're just checking people out and you're not really moving. Another thing that we have is we have a person that counts the people when they come in, and then we have another person that cleans carts. And those are what the people that used to be fitting room, that's what they do now. And it's kind of, you know, they don't really need anything. Like, they kind of just stand there, you know, and count and clean carts and whatnot. If you're a sales associate and you want to really create, like, you don't want people to take advantage of you, but, like, you know, if you have an older associate that's been there for a while, like, ask if they've had their 15 and cover for them. Like, they'll really appreciate it. So whenever you're going in, like, you want to have the mindset of we're a team. And you don't want to have the mindset of, oh, these people are going to be my best friends, because these are your coworkers, and you don't want to mix. It's my opinion. You shouldn't want to mix, like, work and fun. Though I had a lot of friends at my past job that were, like, they were my best friends. Like, we would go to Baskin Robbins afterwards. It just really depends. Like, because the store I work at now, like, all the people are a lot older than me. Like, I'm the youngest by at least 20 years. And there's such a big age difference. Like, honestly, like, I don't know if I would want to be besties with them, because it would just be kind of weird. But I do have some coworkers that I consider, like, true friends. Like, I'll tell them personal stuff, but I would just try to keep your circle close. Don't tell everybody your business. There's going to be gossip no matter what job you go to. There's going to be people that are really hard to deal with no matter what job you go to. And you just need to use, you know, your best judgment and try your best to work out, you know, whatever you have with those people. Because you're still going to have to work with them. It doesn't matter how much you hate Nancy. You're still going to have to run freight with her and communicate with her and try to figure out what the manager just told her that they didn't tell you for whatever reason. So, you know, like, you want to make sure you're on good terms with all your coworkers, even if you don't agree with them. I know it's, like, really weird advice that we've been told our whole lives, but, like, at work especially, unless you're, like, really close with them and you trust them, I would try to stay away from, like, really, like, crazy topics that people feel all kinds of different ways about. Like, you know, who our president is and if masks work. It doesn't matter. So just try to stay away from that, you know, because not everybody believes in science, and they get really upset whenever you bring up really valid points. So don't do that. You know. But yeah, okay, so I'm just trying to think of everything I can think of for this video. If you have any comments or, like, questions, be sure you comment those, and I'll try to answer those the best that I can. If you can't go to work, you do this thing called calling out. So you're going to call the store and be like, hey, well, first of all, you're going to call and then press 4 to speak to an associate. And you're going to be like, hello, can I speak to a member of management? And they're going to transfer you and you're going to hear this dumb music. And then you're going to finally get connected to a manager and you're going to be like, hey, XYZ, I can't come in today. And that's all you have to say. You don't have to provide a doctor's note. You don't have to tell them where you are in the world. It doesn't matter. Like, it's none of their freaking business. Like, if you have a flat on the side of the road, you know, and they really need you, maybe they could come and pick you up. I had that happen. Like, my car wouldn't start and I was like, hey, I can't come in today. And they're like, why? Well, you don't have to answer why, first of all. But if you really need the hours and you just need a way to get to work, like, we had a group chat too at my last store. It was just a better experience all around. But anyways, we had a group chat and all the young folks and old folks, literally everybody with a phone was in that group chat. And we would be like, hey, I'm broke down on the side of the road. And one of my coworkers that was already going to work would like come and pick me up. And then later they would drop me off at my car and I'd get a tow truck and like, you know, jump me off or whatever. So you can create those kind of connections. And that's really nice. It's nice to know that you've got like a family away from your family, you know, because it's great to know when people have your back. So if you call out, that's what you're going to do. And just try to make that, you know, not a big habit. I think you get 12 call outs a year and 3 no call no shows, and then you're fired. Goodbye. So a no call no show is where you have a shift. Let's say it starts at 7 and ends at 4, and you don't call them and you don't show up. So that's a no call no show. So they put that in the computer and it's a mark against you. So if you've just found out like that you had work at 8 and you're not going to be able to go for whatever reason, like, you need to call them. You need to let them know you're not coming, because a no call, no show is really bad, but a call out isn't as bad. So keep that in mind. And that's all that I have for this video that I can think of. Like, I'm just kind of rambling and talk about everything in my experiences. Hopefully I gave you some really great information that you can use in determining if this is somewhere that you want to work. I have been full-time before, and I was full-time for over 3 months, but I wasn't like, I was a temporary full-time person because I was kind of filling in for somebody else. So I can't speak for their benefits or health insurance or time off or dental or anything like that. I'm sure you could find that out probably from another YouTube video. I don't know. But thank you so much for watching for this long, and like and subscribe. Have a really great day, and wish you the best in your application process if you're applying. All right, goodbye.